Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, a show that examines all aspects of sexuality, from physical to emotional to spiritual. Join our hosts as they discuss age-old questions, common misconceptions, and the latest topics surrounding sex. They'll tackle topics about sexuality from the complicated to the hilarious and everything in between. GSMC Sex Podcast is your show for all of your questions about sex, even some you might not have thought of yet.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Hello out there. I hope everybody had an enjoyable Easter and all that good stuff, getting Easter bunnies, getting chocolates and all that stuff, and getting sex. But now on to work. Work. We are back into the normal grind. Again, at least until the next holiday. But have you ever, you're having sex with somebody and you just feel so connected, which makes it that much more enjoyable, that much more pleasurable to you and your partner, and you really wondering why? But yet you can turn around and say, we had such a connection in the bed. There was that natural understanding, that natural knowing of what each of you were going to do and how pleasurable it was to have sex together. Well, you kind of had to have a word for that, or at least whatever. Having sexual, having ESP, sexual ESP. You're a sexual empath, and you're really connected to the individual sexually on how how good it will be, or you don't even really have to think about it. You just know what's going to happen. Kind of sort of know that is going to be a good sign for you. Most people will say, and it's usually always after, oh my God, we had such a great connection sexually. But outside of that, well, it may not work, or it may have enhanced everything that was out there, that unspoken attraction. When you automatically feel it when you're attracted to that individual. And it usually, the attraction usually is and exists based on those subtle or clear physical behaviors of both of you that you're exhibiting. And that, when you get that feeling of, wow, we're closer, or wow, something along that line. But it is an unspoken attraction, and there goes the what do we say? That empathic mind coming out your third eye, per se. Now, we are going to start off with our lovely signs of unspoken attraction. And then we will move on to, that sexual empath, and a good in bed, not good in bed, everything that goes along with it. So that is what our topic is all about. I hope you are comfortable, because here we go. Or if you're already over there and stacked up on everything you need to just sit, relax, and listen, and maybe do in the privacy of your own home, completely up to you. So, there are usually, signs that each other, like two people can pick up when there is that like unspoken like attraction to one another. And a lot of people are like that. If they're separated, they're pretty going about doing their day to day and everything. But and they will say, but the minute I see that, that person, it's like it's almost that connection's there. And we all call this what? The chemistry. You feel the chemistry. Tuition is a big thing. You know how they say, and you should, if your intuition is telling you that something is too good to be true, it generally is in some cases. However, if you have an intuition and of a person, and that person has the same thing going on, and then that chemistry, you feel it, the both of you, give it that try. It might have just been one of those things where you weren't out there looking, but look what came a knocking, and you found what you wanted. If you feel the chemistry, it's usually and always is that unspoken attraction. You're feeling it right then and there. It's really weird because you could ask yourself the question, have you ever seen like chemistry between people while you are doing your daily routine? If you're having lunch with each other, or if you're just doing something, so you met up with your partner, or it's a, prospective partner, and you're having dinner, or you're having lunch, or just, hey, let's go to the park and sit and feed the birds, who's to say what is going on. But you can even see someone walking by hand in hand, or you and that partner or that prospective partner automatically just interlock your hands as you're walking with that, that thing that is called that comfortable silence. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. You're comfortable with that individual. There's that unspoken, that romantic chemistry, that attraction that will always come out. And you don't have to say anything. It's just knowing, just sitting there and being comfortable in the space with that individual. You don't always have to talk. It's not always about having that conversation. It's not, a lot of people feel that when they're with someone that they have to constantly talk because they're too afraid of that silence that's there, and that it's a sign that there's like no chemistry. No, sometimes it's just very comfortable sitting with that unspoken silence, that you're just comfortable. You're with that person. You could be holding hands across the chairs when you're driving, the front seat, the console in the middle. Maybe you still have bucket seats in your car. Who is to say? But chemistry, is the emotional connection. So that's where that silence comes in, and where you don't have to worry about it being silent because you're comfortable. And it's usually you have feelings with that individual, which is awesome as well. And if you are having those feelings and they are reciprocating, then they're having the same ones. You don't have to decipher whether each of you are feeling this way. It's just one of those things you know. Now, there are some signs of emotional chemistry. Yay! First one off the top, guess what that would be? Would be the body language. Oh, yeah. Body language. It's like someone could be saying something, their body language is saying something a whole different. Or it could be the other way around. Body language is saying something, and then out comes something that really doesn't matter. But body language is very, very important. And for most humans, we act on that body language. Another sign, you can talk about anything. You are so comfortable talking about anything that's going on. Say you had a vagina fart. And it does happen to women. Ha 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 ha. And when you're with your partner, you guys can have regular farts together and you don't even care. You can sit there and watch each other while they're going to the bathroom. You don't give a crap. That's how comfortable you are. But you get in the car and you say, oh my goodness, I had to do a business lunching today. And I vagina farted. And I just got lucky that it was so, busy in the restaurant and everybody's talking. I'm like the only one that felt it, but knew what it sounded like. You can say that and laugh about it with that partner, which is great. Now, teasing one another, which comes hand in hand with telling them anything. You can tease them about something, and they're like, okay, whatever. That is a good thing. Most people who are teased by their partner get sometimes offended by it, or they have their own insecurities, which that they cannot handle any type of teasing, no matter where it comes from. And really, in regards to it coming from your partner, the one person that you would believe would not be teasing you and could supposedly understand. So that's what it is. Remember, they're not mind readers. Intuition and empathy, yeah, there they go. Empathic thoughts and things like that. There is a connection with that. But from time to time, you really do have to explain things too, just to let you know that. Next one is intense eye contact. You don't break it. It is there. You don't feel uncomfortable about it. There's that contact right there with the eyes. You locked eyes and have not stopped, never turning away. There's a little bit of subtle flirtation in there, which is also fun as well. Being smiley, always smiling when you get with that person or around that person, or even know that person is going to be in the same place you are going to be. And you're always smiling. Gives you a big smile, bigger than the one you usually have. You're focusing on one another. And there's where it should be. That focus is there. And if you go out, and it's a lot of people who don't even realize this, and believe it or not, I have not actually heard a lot of people say it, but most people tell you that the person, like when that person, the two of you are separated from each other, say both of you are in work, or you're in work and they have the day off and they're out just shopping or whatever, there is that point where that person is thinking about you, and if they're somewhere, say shopping, and they see something that reminds them of you, or something that reminds you of them, or whatever, however you want to word it, and they buy it. I was out today picking up some shoes for tomorrow's, I don't know, whatever. And I saw this and immediately thought of you. And they bought it. They're thinking about you when you aren't even around. And one of the last, and there's a lot of other signs of the chemistry, but this one is really, really a good one. You love spending time together. Regardless. There's like no question. You're together. And these are all positive signs. It doesn't go to show. I mean, it's something that lasts forever and ever and ever. Or it could be something that one thing that you do, maybe some way down the line, put a crick in the middle of it, which kind of sort of you have to work on to get out. But you come out of it unscathed. And your relationships remain still intact. all of these together, one or two of these together, a lot of them. It really needs no questions. If you feel these are all positive. Now, we're going to go where, they, I had said tease each other in one of them. I just want to bring that out a little further and explain it, but most people, tease one another as adults. It's almost like if you were ever told when you were in school that there's this girl or this boy that's constantly hitting me, constantly throwing things at me, and doing this stuff. And what does your parents say, or what does someone say to you? Oh, that means they like you. There's a lot of stuff that goes on with that. Like it's a playful punch, but really in reality, it's their way of getting your attention. They have to be in the same group that you're always in and things like that. That is where that comes in. So you're able to be teased and not be problemed by it. On that note, we are going to take our first break in the show. So, if you did not come fully prepared for the task at hand, please do get a snack and a drink. Come back, get relaxed, because I am going to meet you back here after the break for more Sex Talk with Andra. The topic is unspoken attraction into sexual empathic abilities, and really how to enjoy it and grasp it.
Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Welcome back from the break. Hope you had a little time there to get a little few things done there, or maybe just sit right where you are and not have to worry, because you are relaxing and listening to me. You couldn't have had it any better. Come on. Just joking. But thank you very much if you do actually like my voice and the subject that I'm talking about. So let's move on. We did end with teasing from the first segment of the show. And let me tell you, there's a difference between teasing and bullying. Now, obviously, if you are being bullying, please get up and tell them stop, or tell someone, because it's not the same thing. However, if you are getting teased by your partner and you get to that point where you're just really uncomfortable with it, get some professional help, a counselor, therapist, anything out there. They are there for you. Now, next, moving right along. In our sexual, those things, those unspoken words, sexual attraction. Talked about teasing. Now we're going to talk about both of you. You mirror each other's movements. It's really weird. We always say, like, if you have kids or it's you in general, that you mimic something exactly how your parent would. Well, in this situation, you still have that, but it's just you have such this connection you don't even realize that the two of you are mirroring each other. It is that unspoken mutual attraction big time. And it's one that most people don't even realize that they do most of the time. It's just unintentionally done. And until someone gets up and says, oh my goodness, the two of you just did the same exact thing. And you won't even recognize that you were doing it because you were just doing what you were supposed to be doing. It is a telltale sign that attraction is mutual. Always is. And it's that possible form of a connection there. Gotta work on it a little, but hey, pay close attention to that individual. And it's almost like an evaluation. You're evaluating that individual. And this is where you find that that prospective partner or your partner mirrors what you do sometimes. Remember, you always pick something up with people you've been around. And not just women's time of the month, where you get a bunch of women together who are hanging together or always together, and then all of a sudden their periods are on the same time. It's not what I'm talking about. So, and yes, that does happen. So, this, like mirroring movements of each other, is a subconscious form of body language. And it's done to show that, or that you have that emotional connection between each other. And that, again, that attraction is mutual. Big word there, mutual. Not mutual Omaha, mutual attraction, dears. This is considered one of the most obvious signs that have been studied, believe it or not, when it comes to that old law of attraction. They are out there. Do look at them or just research it, because it does happen. How do you detect the mirroring? Well, you focus, even if you are distracted by all the smiles, all the conversation, everything else that they're doing. And just try and focus on what isn't being focused on. A little odd to say, but that would be it. If it's not happening right now, it will. Especially if you have that attraction, you have that. It's mutual and it's unspoken, and then you have, in bed, you are sexual empaths. It's going to happen. Don't force it. Let it happen one day when you're paying attention. Boom, there it is. Whoop, there it is. Now, other physical representations of this and love that come pretty darn early in the stage of your relationship, only because at the early stages of your relationship, you are trying to impress each other. How else do you do this? You go out of your way to do things, or you do them without being asked. There are a lot of things out there. Number one, or the first one we'll look at, would be the person's body is aligned with yours. Again, gonna get into that one later, but there are other things that you can be aligned with the person's body. It might be a height thing. It might be that person's got the perfect measurements that you like and align with you. If you ever see, the best way I can explain this is really weird. If you've ever seen a couple out walking and you look at them and you say, wow, okay, they really match. And it's not just their clothes. It's probably not matching their clothes, but they match as a couple. That is where your person is aligned with yours. When you get in here, you nervously yawn around them. Come on, we've all done that. You're really, really nervous, and all of a sudden you get that yawn. You didn't mean to yawn, but you did yawn. Shrugged your shoulders. Your cheeks are red because you're blushing. Touching yourself. Like, put your hands on your face. You know how, like, some people, if you're sitting there talking with somebody and you know there's an attraction, but you're trying to impress them, and you kind of sort of put your hands on your cheeks, or you cover your mouth when you're eating, or something like that. You're touching yourself. Especially, our hands automatically go to the face. Remember, our hands are really dirty, so make sure you wash your hands. Germs are carried. Another thing is, believe it or not, which most people know this, is that rapid blinking of your eyes. You're constantly blinking. You're not realizing this, but you are, in the most part. Generally, if you blink a lot, you're wearing contacts. And if you have no contacts on, you're blinking a lot when you're with this person. There is that's one of those physical things. Gazing downward to show your shyness. And we all do it. We may not recognize it. Like nowadays, a lot of people are much more comfortable with it. But if you literally have that unspoken attraction, you're going to do it. I don't care how strong you are. It's just one of those things because you finally figured out, oh my goodness, this is, that person. Women will do this. Well, generally, some guys' hairs are really long now, although they make me jealous half the time, because Lord knows. But generally, that head or hair tossing, women are notorious for, shall I say. You're always smiling. Can't stop smiling. Even though you're trying, your cheeks start hurting and all of that. You can't stop smiling. Moving closer to see, some more of something. Where you kind of that's your indirect way of getting snuggle time, so to speak, or being around that person. They are there. There is, and they say it right out. It is, you are going to try and constantly maintain a close proximity physically to that individual, because you want to be there. You want to know what it feels like to be next to them, to have like the touch, and you may just be, it's in the winter, it's in a coat, but then when summer is and you're doing it, you're actually feeling the skin on skin, say an arm brushing up against theirs, you brush 2 arms up against. That's, you always want to be close to this individual, and have that close physical contact with them. It is there. There's a lot of, you could be sitting down next to each other, and both of you, your thighs, are touching one another. There are those little subtle things. It gets that, all those receptors in your brain going, and gets especially that dopamine. So don't forget about our friend there in our brain. It's chemically produced by that lovely brain of ours, and which gives those feelings of happiness or euphoria, which is absolute. And you're getting those warm little fuzzy feelings too, which is awesome. And then when you get home, or whatever the case may be, you're like, oh my God, I had such a great time. He touched my hand. You ever watch cartoons or kids things where it's like, I'll never watch this face, my cheek again, because they touched it or they kissed it, or, because they met a star. I'm never watching this cheek again. That is almost like basically the same thing. But it's fun. You can sit and just think about it. You're not moved by, nothing bothers the fact that they're sitting that close to you. You don't mind it at all. You actually just let it come in. And you don't say anything. You don't do anything. You might want to do it a little bit more and all of that good stuff. But remember, there still is that space there, but there is that space where that individual doesn't mind you breaking their spatial boundaries. Have I get this one? You or them are trying to impress you. Even though they don't have to, they will do it anyway. You say, why do you do that? You don't have to impress me by talking about things that are in a grandiose way, or showing signs or exhibits that body language in that manner. It is considered that sign of unspoken attraction. They get around you, they don't know what to do. They're constantly giggling, smiling, because there's that attraction there. And in their head, unless, of course, there is an attraction between the two of them, the both of you are feeling it. However, nothing's really been said on your point or your part. And they'll continually do this and try to impress you until you get up and say, or show them that it's okay, that, yeah, you're thinking the same thing. It is out there. It comes out in different ways. Everybody is different. It could be the smallest things, and they're just to impress you. It might be that they're showing off, and then it comes off as gloating. Could be a turn-off, people. You might want to pull that back just a little so that it's not misconstrued, and then all of a sudden, boom, they don't even want to be around you. What do you do in the beginning of a relationship? You spend lots of time together. Very, very big one. Remember, that is whenever you're done with work, or you get into work, or you just text them, or you're talking to them, because all you think, what is going on in your head, they're like the center of your thought process. You can't think straight. Very, very nice. Some couples, this attraction will attract the constant talking between the two of you, where you're constantly just talking and talking and talking, because you're trying to get so much in and learn so much information about that individual that you gotta continually ask questions. You're continually talking just to seek that out. Then you start to think about it, like, how do you tell them that you're thinking about them or whatever? But for the most part, you and that person are already showing that through the constant talking. Now, on that note, I am going to take a break. So it's really, you can either replenish your drink, replenish your snack, but do remain comfortable, or just stay right where you are and not move. Because after the break, I will be back to continue on our topic with that sexual, empathetic vibe going on between the two of you, and which is part of that unspoken attraction as well. So remember, after the break, I will be back with you with more sex talk with Andra.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Welcome back to the third segment in the show, and I'm thanking you for staying with me, and for the newbies who just checked in. Hey, that's what it's all about. Keep on checking in. Even go and listen to some other ones. We are talking about that unspoken sexual attraction, or that sexual intuition. And, some of the signs that came along with that. How do you know someone's thinking about you sexually? You got that feeling. There's always that little bit of sexual tension there, if you want to call it that. There are some fairy tale signs about it that you can look at, and but you're looking at each other, and you have to be attracted to this individual, usually with human beings, and always, actually, shall I say, with human beings. It is usually looks first, come later, in the bed. And that's how it is. It's just our natural nature to do that. We are attracted physically first. Mainly women. Men, it's more of, what if the one-eyed Willie is actually, speaking for them? But for the most part, if you're getting those feelings, and all of a sudden you have that person who is just like, you are just giddy with. All of a sudden, you never did it with anybody else. You know what I mean? There is your sign. So stick with it. It's always good, and it's nice to have that attraction there. But then, the question comes, are they good in bed? This is where your sexual empathic things come out, thoughts, and that connection in the bed, and just knowing what to do and not do. But it's been said that they're really good. You're really good. People that are like this and have that sexual empathic, empathic abilities are really good in bed, because they have a tendency really to put the needs of their others ahead of theirs. So they know and they feel it. And if both of you are in there and doing it, both of you are getting pleasured. They usually like to prioritize the feelings of their partners, because it is something, you are there to please, I hate to say to please, but to make them happy, to make them feel good, to do all those things. Yes, in a way it is kind of sort of pleasing that individual, but it's not, because you are getting something out of it just as well as they are, but you just want it to be reciprocated. But this is a way of having that reciprocation and not even realize that it's a natural. Do you ask yourself, are you a sexual empath? Some people are, some people aren't. And you get a lot of people who get out there where they're not really connecting in the bedroom, in sex, which is a form of, a big part of your relationship, big form of intimacy and getting closer and, moving along and seeing and exploring and all that good stuff. And. You name on there what you want, but it is all that. It's usually like all sensitive people. You have to have a clear, path or understanding about whether you are in tune with this individual, because that's usually, let me put it this way, I know I'm like kind of sort of searching for those words, but the thing is, yes, you have that unspoken attraction. You really like this person. Now what's the next step? You want to know how well they are in bed. You may not have that empathic sexual thing going on right there, but your thought process is how good they are in bed. When you get into bed, and in comes that sexual empath ability for both of you, not just one of you, because generally if you are attractive in that manner, you usually will have that part of it just spill over into your sexual encounters. There is an empath, it's called the Empath Survival Guide, that is out there. So if you want to get into there and find out about it, and they in the book, it kind of, let's see who wrote this. This is for Life Strategies for Sensitive People. It's by Judith Orloff. She stated, there is no such thing as casual sex for empaths. There isn't. It's because you actually are committed and are connected to sex. Is lovemaking. How you start calling it lovemaking, and it's really weird because a lot of people will say, "Oh my goodness!" On the first time we went to bed together, he called it lovemaking, or she called it lovemaking. I didn't even say I loved them, but we had such a connection. So there's a lot more into it. Lovemaking is a blanket effect, which actually can be built upon, because as you get more and more connected, that becomes, a thing for you. And it's no longer worried about what's being said or how it's being worded. But what is a sexual empath? Somebody whose empathic abilities, I'm getting technical on you here, intensify during an erotic encounter so that he or she senses more stress or bliss from a partner. And there is a little stress in there, but you'll know that it's where it's coming from for the most part. Now, sexual empaths are highly sensitive during lovemaking. Also during flirting as well, because there's a little bit of touchy there, and a little bit where that flirting comes in, because you're trying to figure out how would they respond, what would happen if you did this, what would happen if they did this, and that's where you need to look at that. You're basically picking up on your partner's energy, and this is really more than other individuals who consider themselves empaths. And it's a big way of bonding, even on a deeper level. And it's really weird because, this is for all empaths, you want to feel your best. And there must be some physical intimacy shared with that person, that Mr. or Mrs. Right, Mr. or Ms. Right, Mr. or Miss Right. How's that? So I got everybody in there. And this is really when it comes into them and they're reciprocating that. So that's where you start getting that. There are a lot of people who are out there who are empaths, and then they get into the sexual bed, and there is not a connection. That other individual is not. There's a connection outside of it. Once they get into the bed, it is not there. And unfortunately, that does happen. Not that we want it to, but it does. So if you're ever in the mood to read that particular guide, look into it. But I'm going to continue on with this sexual empathic abilities, because that's what it is. Now, there are some signs that go along with this, because, hey, with everything, you got to know what you're looking for. Am I or am I not right? I'm just telling you. We always are wondering, and I think this is where we mess up, so to speak. Because some people will see it in other couples, or see it where it's just one-sided, and they want to know why, basically. It's more of the why, not so much the not having it. They want to know why that they're feeling this, and they're feeling that strong empathic attraction, but yet that other person is not doing it, which makes it kind of sort of one-sided. And you always question yourself with regards to that. Why? Because that's just how we are as humans. We are not, we're complex individuals, complex beings, shall I say, in a nice manner. Now, there are some things that you should not ignore, and some overlap. This is why it is that empathic, that unspoken attraction that combines, because it is either slow or it's going to be fast, or whatever the case may be, and whatever the situation is. It's almost like an intoxicating influence over you that you are unable to explain. You are unable to deny. That's what it is. You just don't have those answers. And you're looking for those answers. Don't. It's a natural thing that happens. And it's a natural thing that you work through on your own. You will find that person where that chemistry is there. And they're going to feel comfortable around you as you do them. You got to kind of sort of take it slow. Very, very important, especially if you're empathic. Sometimes you get that automatically when it comes to it. And that person that you are sexually, empathically connected, if something's happening on the outside, you actually feel it on the inside, believe it or not. A lot of people don't like that. And you can slow it down. You can listen to your intuition. It's actually called the intuitive intellect or intelligence. We all have it. It's what we work on it to use. This will also bring out, as long as you sit down and read it and listen to it, it'll answer you. It will definitely answer you. Now, there is a book out there, another book I'm throwing at you, a lot of reading. Or get the audiobook and listen to it in the car. Heck, everything is technology anyway now. And it's called Emotional Freedom. There are 5 types. It discusses like 5 types of intuitive experiences. And it also, these are things that you may or may not encounter. And they also teach you about your love relationships as well. First one, as with everything, is body signals, body language. We talk a lot through our bodies. And this is an old saying as well, especially when it comes to sexual. Because what do men do? They'll look at your boobs when you're walking as a female. Or they'll look at your behind from behind and how it shakes and jiggles. So don't tell me that you guys don't do that, because that's what you do. And to them, it's like, oh, Well, if it's doing that while they're walking, imagine if they're in the bed and they're having an orgasm. That's where their thought process goes. It's always turned on to sex. But when it comes to the sexual empathic abilities, they actually, some men or some partners will been thinking about it for the longest time, get in the bedroom and totally cannot perform. So don't overthink it because you want to have this. You don't want to have that feeling of embarrassment. And some people do get that, so remember that. On that note, we're going to take the last break of the show. And we'll get a little deeper into this and go through these intuitive intelligence, the sexual empathic, and all that good stuff. When we come back, completely up to you if you want to get up and maybe take a bathroom break. But do remain comfortable, because I will be back after the show and continue my sex talk with you from Andra. So come on back and enjoy that short time there.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, with the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Welcome back to the final segment in the show. And we are talking about that sexual intuition, being that sexual empath, having those empathic abilities during sex with two of you are on the same page in everything you do, and it's just coming natural to you. So there are a lot of people that are out there, and a lot of people who base their relationship on that too. So don't think that you are not being seen. But our first way of knowing if you are this way, get those body signals. And that was the last thing I spoke about before we went on break. And when I mean body signals, trying to find ways, or your body's ways of telling you, and it's trying to get your attention through this. And it's because of that person. Now, some people get goosebumps. Something rings true. You just know something's true. You feel goosebumps. The hair standing up on the back of your neck, where sometimes it will creep you out, but in this sense, whenever that person comes around, you're like, whoa, So there's a lot of ways to look at that. Your body signals you in your way. Also, when people are on those online dating profiles and the prospective partner is reading it and they get those little chills that come up that tell them, oh my goodness, I really want to know about this person. Then there are other ones that do tell you that what they wrote was wrong. So that could go either way. Obviously, gut reactions are really good. And it's the way, you get around our world in an instantaneously quick fashion where you make decisions and base it off of that. You might just get, another way is you may just get tense in your shoulder area. These are all things that are telling you something's up. So let's move on along to the next one, which would be a deja vu. Everybody's had deja vu. When you come back and say, didn't I do this already? It could be something you thought of or dreamt of the year before or some odd time before, then all of a sudden it comes out now. Or it could have been something like the other day and boom, it happened. It could have been a few minutes beforehand and it happens. And it's just you stop yourself, geez, didn't we have this conversation? I met you before, or there's something. You sure we haven't, or I haven't done this, or whatever? You feel as though you've been there before. A lot of people generally turn around and say, too, that they're with that person and they just, because they have this empathic connection or intuition, that they feel like they've been together all their lives. And when it gets to that point, one person will generally back away instead of going forward because they don't want to find out what happens. Some people keep going. How to use it into, your romantic relationships really is it's, you do, instead of thinking that it's a strange thing, hence, and then just moving right along with it, have that, do not let that experience pass you by, or really put that, or at least try it, because you do not know. The minute that person or one of you backs down, they aren't ready for it and will need to stop what you're doing because they're not going to go any further. And it usually breaks that connection, believe it or not. It just breaks it. It could be something they did. It could have been something they said. But it will break that connection and you will try to get it back. Another way you can use it in a relationship is you have trusted friends. You talk to them about it. Or you can write it down. It's one or the other. When you bring that deja vu experience into context of a relationship, it opens it up and energizes it, which is amazing. So it also brings out the acknowledgement of its significance, and it helps you find out what really it is telling you, or what it's trying to tell you, or where it's trying to lead you to go. When it comes to that lovely romance, deja vu is considered a powerful affirmation. These are really good things to think about because for the most part, you get to this point, a lot of people will stop, back up, and it usually breaks it. And then somewhere down the line, all of a sudden it hits them. And they say to themselves, geez, I should have just gone with that or something. Why did I stop that? Why did I doubt myself? And there, it happens. It happens. And I'm sure everybody has had that experience. They either have spoken about it or they're not saying anything about it. It's one or the other. But moving along to synchronicity. There, you and that person, that potential partner, have perfect timing. You are synchronized in what you do. It could be something that you hear It could be a song. It could be an action that they do. But you're doing it basically at the same time. You're in sync with them. Like you either thought of it and they acted it out, or they thought of it and you acted it out. That synchronicity, or you were thinking the same thought watching something on television, and then you turn around and say, I was just thinking that. But didn't want to say anything, or whatever the case may have been. Heaven only knows. I don't know. But how do you use it in that romantic relationship? We're always going to come back to this. How do you use it? Stay aware. And look for those synchronicities everywhere between you and your partner. Don't sit there and like, oh my God, I'm searching for these like today, or you're watching their every little move. No, it will come in. You'll know when that moment is. You'll be in the flow of it. So you don't really, it's almost like location, or the right place at the right time. It will come out. Then you're going to think back and say, oh my goodness. Either you're going to delve further into it and try to psychoanalyze it, which, let me tell you, is not a good thing to do. Or you're just going to look at it and say, you had, this should have happened. This means we're on the same place. We're going in the right direction. I am with that partner. That partner is going to be part of my life, and sexually is going to be right off the top. The orgasms, everything is going to be right on target. And that's what it is. I mean, every day we do things, whereas we see something that reminds us of somebody else, and then all of a sudden that happens for a little while, or it might just happen that one day, and then later on in that day, who do you see? That person. There was a reason for that. Don't know what that reason is, but there was a reason. When you get confronted with it, then you will know. Seeing beyond. This is when you are tuned into an event that is happening at that very moment, right now, and you're into it, but it's somewhere else. Haha, caught you on that one, didn't I? One of the examples would be, you think of a long-lost boyfriend, then all of a sudden he sends you an email. There's where that comes in. And you're thinking about it like right then and there. You're on the computer doing whatever it is you got to do, and boom, you're thinking email, this person, whatever, and then they email you. You could have been thinking about emailing them just to see how they were doing, but then all of a sudden they turned around and beat you to the punch and emailed you right in that moment. It happens. It so happens. Now, using that in your romantic relationship, you're taking your whole you, body, mind, everything, and it acts as an intuitive receiver. So you get more conscious of your body as a whole in this situation. This way you can get into a little sync with whomever you are with, or what is going on with you. A lot of people have that, try to get through there through like doing yoga or Pilates or exercising or something else, that's where you can think the most. You can look at things from the outside view in, and really there are a lot of you use that little snapshot of life, or you have those flashbacks of life, or forward. You're getting all of these. Jot them down, because you can look at them later and really figure out, especially if it is really, really bothering you. write it down, revisit it, see how it's getting together. And, when two people, or you and your partner, are really, really clicking, these experiences are considered commonplace, or become even more of a commonplace between the two of you. And they'll come out and you will even get those feelings something is wrong. Most of the time, the best way I can explain it is a mom and her children. I hate to tell you that, but that connection, motherly child connection, most women who have children can be on the other side of the world, but know something's happened to their child, or that child is crying, call up, and they're doing it right then and there. This is kind of sort of the same thing. So look at it that way, and you got it. Intuitive empathy, sexual empathy, knowing what each other's going to want in the bedroom. You're in there, your eyes are locked together. You don't even have to move. Please, you don't even have to talk. Just, it's almost like and you've known what each other wants sexually, where they need to be touched on their body, and what turns them on the most, and you haven't even communicated this. You just have that empathic connection that you just go with, and oh, this person's going to want to get touched here or something. If you play with the clitoris, if you play, play around with the head of their penis, if they do something like that, it's just knowing without knowing that in the bed, and having that. And this is what makes people who are empathic good sexual empathic people in the bedroom, because you're not going to tell them. It's not a learning curve. Somewhere down the line you probably will, but there might be something new that you want to try. At that point you are learning between the two of you, and having this particular connection makes trying something new a heck of a lot easier in the bedroom. People who have this connection they're like some of the best lovers out there, and I'm assured that you know that, and either you already have that partner, or you've met someone that you have that feeling. But do look for those little warning signs too, where they're not feeling the same thing, because that will put a damper and cut that little connection and sever it right in half. Like I said, you're going to get that individual turns over and says, oh my goodness, things are moving too fast. It's because they're not following their what that sexual empathy, that empathetic mind is telling them, their intuition, and working in it. They get scared. So, on that note, there are all kinds of ways to be sexually empathic. Work on them. Build them. Everybody can be sexually empathic, because it does have sex has a lot of feelings that come with it that put it into place. Don't think too hard, but it is there. So, on that note, I'd like to thank you, but I'd also like to say, please practice safe sex as always. If not for yourself, for your partner, and vice versa. Also, if you are going to try something new in the sexual bed, educate, communicate, and most importantly, consent. So, thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, which was brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Now, I do ask that you hit that subscribe button, give us 5 stars, because it not only helps me, but it helps the GSMC Podcast Network. knowing, it lets them know that what you're hearing is what you want to hear. Or put something in there you even want to hear more. It helps them out to know what they're bringing you is what you want to hear. Putting that all goobly-gobs into one. I also ask that you please do seek us out on Twitter and Instagram, because we are also on there as well as Facebook. Hit that little like sign, that little thumbs up over there. Leave a comment. Let us know what you want to hear. Or, hit that little heart. Show us some love, because we need it too. And leave a good comment. Leave something, tell us what you want to hear, what you want discussed on here. It is for your liking and for you to hear. I want to give you the best. So on that note, I thank you again for tuning in. But I also will say, either continue what you're doing or go have some good sex. And I will see you next time with more sex talk with Andra in the next show. Bye-bye for now.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast.